He is one of the new entrants of Ghana's August House of Legislature. He doubles as a spokesperson of the President Akufo-Addo government. I'm referring to the Member of Parliament for the Ofaso-Ayebi constituency, Honorable Kojo Oppong Nkrumah. In this edition of Ghana Web's Election Desk, he's our guest, and we'll be dissecting all the raging issues which have made the news headlines these past few weeks. My name is Lord Harry Sudasari. What's your first stint at politics? Served as Member of Parliament and Minister of Information. How has that been for you?
It's been a tough challenge, combining the role of a Member of Parliament with a critical role as that of the Minister responsible for information. But I think what has worked for me is a strong support network in the constituency, here at the ministry, and in Parliament that has allowed me to deliver on the various facets of my job as a Member of Parliament and a Minister of Information.
2 years down the line, are some of your high points?
Well, in the constituency, I think my high points come when I go over what we've been able to deliver as compared to what we promised. Because I was very clear in my mind that I didn't want to make promises that I cannot fulfill, and that everything I had committed to, I should do well to execute. It is a high point for me. It's one that gives me joy. Here at the ministry, I am also pleased about the fact that we were able to roll out a number of platforms that allow us to do the most important thing, which is to get the government line out, and out in good time. So you notice that since I became minister, I've introduced a number of things like the minister's press briefings, like our social media platforms, like the direct engagement between the minister and media houses that we call Ask the Info Ministry, the national policy summits, the town hall meetings, and quite recently we've added the nation building updates for the next about 8 weeks or so, all aimed at ensuring that the government line, the government voice, the government position on matters is pushed out in good time as part of the broader conversation that goes on in the country. And in Parliament, I think what my joy has been is my ability to study at the feet of people like Dr. Anthony Akutose, Professor Jambafo, Seche Mensah-Bonsu, Dr. Marcus Ibeyeboa, Afenyo Markin, etc., and very quickly grasp the rudiments of parliamentary culture and parliamentary work, and bring that to bear in my work at committee level, debates on the floor, and in legislation as well. So 3 years, very tough, but I can only thank God for the opportunity.
As the spokesperson of the Akufo-Addo administration, if we can call it that, it comes with lots of pressure, like you rightly indicated, especially when there are several news out there and you have to be at the forefront and everything. What has been your lowest point? At what point did you feel that you were a bit too overwhelmed?
Maybe it's yet to come. From my experience, for example, when I was working in radio till now, I bury myself in my work. I try not to feel or get excited or down by what is going on, but to focus tunnel vision on the work that I'm doing, get feedback, get support, and keep going. And then in the end, I can evaluate. You can see my desk right now. These are briefs for this week that I need to master on various subjects that are coming from various ministries, departments, and agencies, so that when I get behind the podium to speak to a matter, I am not caught wanting, or I am as much as possible aware of the basics or the key intrigues in a particular matter, and therefore can respond on behalf of the government of Ghana. When I don't have that information, to be able to say clearly that I do not have this information, I can check and get back to you. But I like to do my work not based on what I think, but on the briefs that I have. And that's why you often hear me saying that the brief that I have is X or Y or Z, or I don't have a brief on this matter. And I like to stick to it and not get too excited or worried about what's going on in the broader ecosystem.
You've been referred to as one of the promising and young ministers. There are usually lots of praises in that regard. But have there been moments when you feel like your work sort of clashes with other people's works?
My work naturally clashes with other people's work because we are in the process of a national conversation. Democracy is an ongoing national conversation. And there are people who have different views. Some of those persons sometimes take it personally when you disagree with them or express a view different from theirs. Some like to go personal and to attack your person or to concoct stories about you, etc. So naturally, the job that I do, I consider myself as a lawyer for government in the court of public opinion. To tie in with my profession before I came to sit behind this desk, my job is to take my brief from my client to understand how it aligns with what the law and expectations are, and to advance my case in the court of public opinion on behalf of my client. It does not mean that I dislike the lawyer on the other side or that I have disrespect for the client on the other side. That's a lawyer's craft. And so, though you may occasionally come into conflict with people, I don't take it personally. And I don't believe that anybody who wants to succeed in this public advocacy exercise needs to take it personally.
You state that your background as a journalist, of course, have armed you well enough for this job. Would you say you are in your comfort zone?
It's a very challenging new enterprise for me because a few years ago, I was the one asking the questions, like you're doing now. Today, I have to answer the questions. And therefore, it's a very different spectacle that I have to put on at this point in time. So comfort zone, no, I'm not sure. Very, very, very different. Maybe a 360 turnaround or rather a 180 turnaround in terms of the role. But like all other roles, you have to quickly learn and do your best to deliver on the new task. One day you are a goalkeeper. Your job is to do well to catch the ball with your hands. Another day you are a striker. If you catch the ball with your hands, it's a foul. You have to learn how to adapt and to play that different role.
Will you be open to serving a different portfolio in the next government if you are voted back in power?
So two things. One, if you read the Constitution, it usually describes people as minister responsible for. That means that first you are a minister and second you are given a responsibility. So a minister can be asked to be responsible for any portfolio whatsoever. Secondly, I serve at the pleasure of the president. And whatever he requires me to do, whatever portfolio he requires me to hold and to deliver on, that's what I have to quickly learn, adapt to, and deliver on his behalf.
I quite recall you were the first minister, I should say, to do an Insta Live with a creative arts personality. I'm referring to Stonebwoy. I mean, a lot of people have the impression that they would continue, probably go to the other sectors, but we didn't see that. Why did you stop?
I haven't stopped social media engagements. You see me very active on Facebook and on Twitter and on Instagram. I started as what I'm hoping will become a series of IG live sessions. I don't think I've stopped. A few things may have come in between work-related and maybe occupy the time, but I can assure the various stakeholders that we deal with that we will continue to use those platforms to engage.
I don't take word from the street, I mean, but there's lots of words going around that you're someone that they can look up to be a president, like you're learning on the job to be a president. Do you have any ambition as such?
You know very well that I came into politics purely by accident in the first place. And I've been doing my best to hold and to contain the current portfolio that I have. I also try not to get too excited or worried about things that I hear on the flanks. Because as I'm sure you recall, the same people who said, Hosanna, Hosanna, were the same ones who said, crucify him, crucify him. So I like to focus on the job I'm doing and not get too ambitious or excited.
But I know you're ambitious. Is there something like that?
You think I am. But like I said, I like to focus on the job ahead of me and not get too excited by commentary on the side. It's a dangerous thing in public service to kick off with high ambitions. I think what you have to do is to focus on the job that you are delivering and do it to the best of your ability.
Let's talk about some of the trending issues right now. I'm referring to the Western Togoland secessionists. You've held some media engagements to clear the air on everything that's happened. You stated that government is on top of the issues, the security agencies are working things out and all that. But quite recently, there were attacks from same group. How did that happen if the security details are on the job and they know exactly what is happening?
So permit me to give you a bit of a background. There were some events on Friday morning last week. What was observed and reported, in our view, in our analysis, was the remnants of the bigger plot, a good chunk of which was thwarted. The actionable intelligence that was available, which was acted upon by the security and intelligence agencies, thwarted what was the most dire parts of their plot, the kind of places they wanted to blow up and burn and bomb and cause terror. Would have been a lot scarier if nothing had been done at all and if all intelligence had collapsed and all responses had collapsed. Now, having failed in that enterprise, they now resorted to this blocking of roads and burning of ties and attacking of a couple of police stations. And even for that, as soon as it happened, within a couple of hours, troops were mobilized to get in to neutralize that situation. And that is why the security agencies have said, and we believe them to be true, and we have reiterated that that situation was under control. I think somewhere even before 1000 hours on Friday morning. Beyond the Friday morning specific incident, there are still outstanding threats. And I think we've repeated that a number of times, that there are still outstanding threats. They still have intel and info on some of the things that these persons want to do and are working to neutralize those. They need a lot of collaboration and support from residents, from chiefs, from political leaders, from the media to succeed in neutralizing and containing the outstanding threats in these areas. Beyond that, you have the medium to long-term substantive matter of dealing with this whole conversation once and for all. This conversation about whether or not a part of Ghana can secede. Okay. Whether or not there's any justification for that question. What are the facts about this so-called plebiscite of 1956, which is thought to have been time-bound, etc.? There needs to be a lot of education and engagement because there are a lot of young people who don't even understand what happened, and if are not educated, could fall prey to the misinformation. These are the various categories of things that are ongoing. And it is important for the general public to support the security agencies to succeed, rather than turn their guns on the security agencies that they know close to nothing and have done nothing. You know that our security agencies, when we focus on supporting them, whether it's about kidnapping of Canadians or whatever, when we give them intel in good time, they are able to deliver. And I think that's where we should all channel our energies and our resources.
You speak about public help in the security agencies, and then you've also mentioned that the majority of the public seem to be ignorant about the facts on the ground. How is government, through the NCC, educating the public on this front? Because if education was well enough, immediately people saw traces of this, I'm sure they would have reported, and then that would have been thwarted.
Additionally, district assemblies, traditional rulers, paramountcies, historians, the media, all have a collective responsibility. I don't speak for the NCC, but I don't think that it's enough to park it at the NCC's doorstep that it means the NCC is not doing its job well enough. All of us have a responsibility to ensure that there's deeper education and engagement with our peoples about patriotism, about the unity of Ghana, about holding together as one state, about even the falsehoods of the plebiscite and which areas it covered and whether or not it was time-bound. We all have a collective responsibility, and that's why I call out to you, my colleagues in the media, that it is one thing for focusing a whole conversation on whether or not the security agencies are up to their task. Those are legitimate questions that can be asked and have been responded to. It is another thing complementing that with another 10 minutes that says, but for the next 10 minutes, let's just settle the facts on this plebiscite matter. And I think that we all have a responsibility to do that, to churn out the facts and to deal with the false propaganda and not become agencies that provide fuel or platforms for the false propaganda to be regurgitated, hoping to convince somebody. So it's a collective responsibility. It's not just for the NCC, all of us. You are included, I'm included.
There's also a recent development about the secessionists hiring the services of a Togolese lawyer who, from our sources, also works for the government. Has Ghana reached out to the Togolese government on how to resolve this?
First of all, if you're talking of secession, the people who own the land, the chiefs, are the people who would be legitimate in having any conversation about whether or not they want their parcel of land to be part of Ghana or not. So even the nomenclature, the names that we are using for some of these, in my view, respectfully, have to be reconsidered. The persons who are doing this are indulged in pure criminality. Attacking STC, seeking to bomb or to blow up the Akosombo Dam, or to kidnap people or burn the whole market is criminality. It's not secession. And I want to encourage that even our lingua, we position it appropriately. Secondly, there are also a good number of persons who are around claiming to have expertise in security and postulating on everything, and sometimes repeating rumors to the extent that the rumors now appear to be truths that we have to now chase after.
That's some of these rumors are referring.
So, for example, what you're telling me, what we do know is that the lawyer for the 31 persons is a Ghanaian.
Those are the ones arrested. But so this was reported by a Togolese media that the lawyer, his name is Martial Akakpo, he has been hired by the secessionists. So not necessarily the people who have been arrested, the ones who want
to do what?
To represent them at the ICC or the UN. To represent them to, how do you call it?
Which cases before there's no case before the ICC. The ICC is the International Criminal Court. There's no case there. There's no case before the United Nations. So if somebody claims that he's a Togolese lawyer who has been hired by these persons to represent them where, in a court in Togo or where, there's no case before the ICC, there's no case before the UN. That is why I'm saying that there's a lot of A, false propaganda. B, there are also a lot of persons who purport to be security couples who also repeat some of these rumors. In fact, I'll tell you another one that was said, that their petition was edited by an embassy in West Africa. And this was actually said by a so-called security person live on national television, unchallenged. And it then becomes part of the public conversation that, hey, have you heard? They say somebody, some embassy is behind it. And now we have to start chasing all of those. And that's why we are suggesting that let us stick with the facts that we know them to be, the facts as have been proven, and let us not give too much oxygen and fuel to the false propaganda and the misrepresentations. For those who have a genuine confusion about the history of what used to be Togoland, which is now part of the Republic of Ghana, as per the Independence Act of 1957 by the British Parliament, following the plebiscite of 1956. For anybody who has any confusion there, you can educate that person. All of us can do that. But for anybody who takes up arms and seeks to shoot a police officer, attack a police station, seize a police vehicle, block roads, and be involved in the activities of a proscribed or an illegal group, and to pick up weapons while at that, that's criminality, and it will be dealt with in accordance with the law.
I mean, these criminalities a result of frustrations because they feel their demands are not being met.
Criminality is never a justification for whatsoever a frustration. Armed robbery is never a justification for any sort of frustration that you may claim to be going through.
There's also a former MP of Hohoi, Kosi Kedem. Yeah, he stated that with the situation on the ground, the name Ghana as we know it is not a legal entity because looking at the dynamics of it, there was an union document which wasn't signed. And that was why the secessionists have found a flaw to do what they are doing.
I think, first of all, you shouldn't give oxygen to such expressions because they are not true and they only pollute innocent minds.
So what he said was false?
I think, secondly, you should check the Constitution of Ghana on the definition of the territories of Ghana. Check the 1957 Independence Act as promulgated by the British Parliament. Check the question of the plebiscite of 1956. And you yourself will realize that none of these things hold water. But the more you continue to give such persons oxygen to express these falsehoods, the more you give them room to convince somebody who may be genuinely confused. And that is why I pray my colleagues in the media, check your own facts and help the exercise of extinguishing these falsehoods, but not necessarily giving them oxygen for them to perpetrate these falsehoods.
So last year, when Papavi and his group started, they were arrested and eventually bailed, and we didn't see the end.
11 of the accused persons, 4 are at large, 7 were granted bail by the Circuit Court in Ho on the 6th of May 2020 and to report weekly. A bench warrant has also been issued for the arrest of the 4 fugitives. And then on the 7th of October 2020, the court has adjourned the case to that date so that the case continues after case management. So that case has not been abandoned.
Don't you think that because they haven't been grabbed, of course there's the procedure to pursue them and all that, is the reason for them, I mean, the current secessionists, them having the confidence to do what they're doing, it's not because they think that this is what the situation is. The people who were at the forefront, who made the attempt initially, have not been.
But these persons are before the courts of law. Mm-hmm. All of us have a responsibility to state the fact. It is one thing saying that they are doing it because nothing has been done to the other people. But it's another thing also saying that I have checked, and their next due date in court is the 7th of October. If you take the Republic versus David Carl and 13 others, their next due date in court is also the 7th of October. The Republic versus Michael Sakafi Hofwe and 8 others. One person was discharged upon the advice of the Attorney General on the ground that he was acting in the normal course of his trade as a commercial driver. And they are also due back in court on the 15th of October. We can check all of these things and let people know that it is not true that these persons have been left off the hook. The wheels of justice, admittedly, may grind slowly, but they grind because everybody must have their day in court, no matter how insane you think the exercise on which they are embarking may be. They must have their day in court. We are in a democracy. That's a country in which we are currently. And you have to be tactful in dealing with these matters. If you go out there high-handed shooting people all over the place because you think it's so annoying, you create martyrs out of people. And you will now give them a platform to recruit other persons. And so that tact and balance must be brought to bear. And I think where we need your help, for example, is to put these facts out there, your court reporters, etc., to put them out there so that people know that it is not as though these ones have been abandoned. On the 26th of October 2020, back at hearing, is the case titled The Republic versus Bagbila Nayemi. These were the 18 suspects arrested at Yendi on the 27th of December 2019. So it was Bagbila Nayemi and some about 17 persons. Those who were there, all before court. And it is important that we, as part of this engagement, get all of this information out there a bit more so that people know that these people are not off the hook. And therefore, it doesn't serve as grounds for you to seek to copycat their actions.
Admittedly, the wheels of justice grind slowly, but we are in an election year, more so less than 3 months. And with these things happening, I believe the confidence of the public will be a bit shaky. How is government approaching it to give the assurance to the public that these things will not seep into the elections and blow things out of proportion?
I think about 3 levels. First is to demonstrate containment of the situation, as was done on Friday morning very swiftly. Second is to ensure that we engage with the communities and provide the level of education and deeper understanding in various areas, like even on the status of some of the cases or on the claims that are being made by some of these groups. And then thirdly and substantively, to ensure that law enforcement works, both in the past matters and in even preventing potential future activities or in containing future situations that may come up. And as I keep saying, it is a collaborative effort. The state will do its part, but all of us have a responsibility to play to support the state to succeed. Traditional rulers, political leaders, media, religious leaders, citizens of these places. It is by working together that we can defeat this once and for all.
You earlier stated that Ghana is safe. As it stands now, it's safe. But the incident that happened a few days ago, I mean, especially with people who live in the North Tongue enclave and especially the Volta region.
Scary.
Exactly.
Yes,
and
yes.
do disagree with you that Ghana is safe, because for them it's not.
Well, so I do understand those sentiments, and I think we all appreciate why those sentiments. But it is a question of whether the territories of Ghana are unsafe for regular life and business. In managing a country, managing a democracy, you may have some isolated incidents of, may I say, violence or crime or something of the sort, terror here and there. But doesn't mean that the entire jurisdiction is unsafe. I don't think so. What you quickly have to do is to move in to provide the kind of security that is required for the people of these areas and the entire country, and ensure that preventive measures are put in place for the future.
2016, there was a Nigerian business mogul, and I'm referring to the Ovation boss. He championed the developmental projects of the government, and he's someone who says he believes in selling Africa and the good things being produced out of Africa, and he's often in Ghana doing the same. And more often than not, he's been referred as a pro-Mahama, and of course he's admitted it himself. But then he says that he's ready to publicize the work of this government if you give him the opportunity to, because according to him, he hasn't seen this government put their best foot forward as far as projecting their infrastructure work.
It is improper for the nationals of foreign countries to be involved in the politics of another country. I'm sure you know that. It will be reckless of us to be inviting the foreign nationals of another country to be involved in our domestic politics. The domestic politics of Ghana is a matter for the people of Ghana. It will not be proper for us to be inviting foreign nationals to come and participate in the political discourse of our country. No country does that. And so if this gentleman you are referring to is doing that at the behest or on behalf of the NDC, they should be quick to call him to order. That in itself is improper, let alone have the moral grounds to now seek to do it across the political divide. That I want to be so involved in Ghana's politics that the other side should also engage me to speak their politics for them. If a Ghanaian was doing this in Nigeria or South Africa or Egypt or America or the UK, it will not be tolerated. So that in itself is improper and should not be tolerated.
Well, he believes is not political because his work, I'm talking about the Ovation magazine, it's all over, it's an international magazine.
What he believes is immaterial. What it manifests to be is what is most material. And I think what it manifests to be is quite clear. Like you've said, he says he's pro-Mahama. What is that? That is partisan politics, getting involved in the politics of a third-party country. It is not advisable. And the earlier that our friends on the other side call him to order, the better it will be for all of us.
Okay. Let me just step back to the peace issue right now. Does government have a timeline to resolving the situation we are now, especially because the elections are not very far?
So the agencies continue to monitor the situation and evolve whatever tactics that need to be added onto the current existent ones. And they expect that in the shortest possible time, at least the outstanding challenges can be successfully neutralized, while the full breadth of work on the medium to long-term final resolution of this matter takes place.
How soon are we talking about? Because Ghanaians are sitting on tenterhooks.
It started already. It started already. Work has already started. It started way before Friday to prevent the more dire attacks. There's ongoing work with the objective of neutralizing or thwarting the outstanding threats or risks that exist. And then already also as an overlap, work is starting on the broader engagements that are aimed at ensuring that these matters are dealt with once and for all. So it started already. I think what we should do is to support the exercise so that we get to a quick destination.
What's your peace message for the country ahead of the elections?
I think we have an opportunity to achieve our aspirations if we have a well-functioning democracy and an administration that is delivering on an agenda that brings growth, inclusion, incomes, increase in the quality of life of our people. To do that, that means that we must go through this election peacefully, make our choices, and then as governments are seized with the reins of power, they have the responsibility also to deliver on their mandate to improve the quality of lives of the people. We believe that we're in a good place as an administration to be voted to retain power and to continue with the exercise. And I want to encourage your audiences to do well to show up at the polls and to vote to retain Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo and the MPP Member of Parliament or MPP parliamentary candidate for your constituency so that we can do more for you in the next 4 years.
Okay, sure. Thank you very much for speaking with us.
Thank you, Lord. Come by sometime.
Yeah? Come on, sure.
Cheers.